Okay, great. Welcome everybody. This morning, it's 9 o'clock and the sun's just about up at the moment. I'm going to talk to you today about personal branding using LinkedIn. I've got a couple of polls to start out. If I can open one of my polls. Let's see if I can do this so that you can actually fill in a couple of bits of information so I know who I'm talking to. So if I can start polling with this one. How would you rate your proficiency on LinkedIn? Would you say that you're a total beginner? Would you say you're a novice? You're okay, you're keen but unsure, or you think you're a total pro? Who's the total pro? Is that Anne, I wonder? Okay, so most people seem to think they're okay. We've got, it's pretty much, it's sort of half and half. Yeah, we've got one total beginner, one total pro, a few novices, okay, keen but unsure. Okay, fine. So I kind of know where sort of to pitch it. Okay. I'm just going to close that poll now and move on to the next one because we've got a couple. The next one is how often do you use LinkedIn? So never, monthly, weekly, 1 to 2 times a week, or daily. Well, that's really interesting. I think lots of people are using it daily. I think when we ran this probably sort of 6 to 8 months ago, you were getting a lot more people who were using it weekly and what's kind of 2 to 3 times a week. And I think now we're all working from home. I think people are using it more often. So it is interesting to see. Okay, great. I'm just going to shut that one and start the next one. So, what do you use LinkedIn for? So, is it job search? Is it research? Is it improving your knowledge? Sales, prospecting, or promotion? So, are you in a sales or kind of marketing role, or are you actually recruiting members of staff? Okay, there's quite a few people who are doing sales. Improving knowledge. Okay, so quite a few people are kind of using it for sort of thought leadership and going on there in general sort of sector education. And there's 5 of you who are looking for jobs. Okay.
Please enter your dial and ID number followed by the pound sign.
Anne, have you left your mic on? Hang on. I can hear something. Yeah, in the background. Fine. Okay. Mhm. Okay, so back to the polls then. So we've got, yeah, okay, it looks like most of you have done that one. Okay, so I'm just going to close that poll now and go for the final one, which was how best would you describe yourself? So are you open to work? Are you freelance or self-employed? Are you employed by somebody else? Are you student or other? Okay, it looks like most of you are employed. There's a few freelancers and self-employed, a couple of students, a couple of people open to work. Okay, great. That kind of tells me where I sort of need to pitch things. Great. Okay, so we'll crack on then. As I said this morning, I'm going to be talking to you about using LinkedIn for personal branding purposes. So just a little bit about me. I've worked for, I was working for Anicca for 6.5 years full time. I switched last year and I'm working for De Montfort University now as a senior lecturer. One of the things I lecture in is social media marketing, more on the kind of organic and community side. I also lecture in corporate communications, brand PR and advertising and promotion. So quite a kind of wide remit in terms of kind of marketing subjects. I live in Leicester. We've been in lockdown since the dawn of time, so it feels. Since last March, I've got my other half and I've got my little cat, and it's just the three of us. So it's felt very cozy, I guess, the last few months. But just sometimes you just like to see somebody else, wouldn't you? That's not on a screen. I try and get outside and do as much exercise as I can. I try and run 2 miles a day, and I also do outside workouts as well, trying to keep the fat off, which I think is massively important in lockdown. In case you're not familiar with Anicca, here's some examples of the brands that we work with. So lots of kind of big companies within the wider Midlands region. So people who are kind of headquartered, I guess, within, I guess, probably maybe like an hour of Leicester. But these days, kind of like location, it doesn't seem so important, does it? As we're all remote everywhere. But you'll see there's a real big mix there of kind of consumer brands and B2B as well. So what am I going to cover today then? So there's 2 parts to it. So I'm going to do most of it, which hopefully should be about sort of 45 minutes, which is personal branding for LinkedIn. And then Anne's going to do a little bit about recruitment at Anicca, because she's got some really exciting news about that. So I'm going to be covering the personal branding side. So first of all, I'm going to be doing just like a little update on LinkedIn and why it's important to use LinkedIn as part of your kind of either your job search or to promote yourself as part of your in your career as a whole at the moment, because it is seeing such a surge in engagement and content creation. I'm going to do a little bit on how to find your USPs in personal branding, because I think it's really hard to try and kind of analyze and market yourself. As much as we're all kind of, fancy ourselves as marketers, and yes, we can market somebody else's product or business or service. Doing it on yourself, I think, is quite difficult. So I'll give you some tips on how to do that. Then we're going to look through more some of the kind of functionality and making sure that your profile is kind of on brand and looks professional. I'm going to touch on some thought leadership and also increasing your network as well. Then I'll hand over to Anne, who's got a few slides to do on recruitment at Anicca, which is quite exciting news. Okay then. So why use LinkedIn in 2021? Welcome to the new year. 2021 already. So LinkedIn is seeing a massive spike of engagement at the moment. I did go on and get the latest figures. So Microsoft own LinkedIn, and they're reporting a 31% increase in engagement up to last October, and a 16% increase in revenue. So you can obviously see that LinkedIn is becoming more important in terms of people conversing. You can see from, I mean, these are spikes which happened when we went into the first lockdown last March. But you can see like content creation was up 60%, LinkedIn live streams were up 158%. People watched 4 hours of content on LinkedIn in March. You can see that since that first lockdown and the fact that lots of us have continued to work from home, LinkedIn has become more and more important. And I think it's become more important from a community and a personal and individual sense, but also from a business sense as well, because a lot of people who were doing kind of face-to-face sales or sales in offices now are having to use LinkedIn for kind of business-to-business sales. And I think that's probably reflected in some of that revenue increase that they're seeing. Also, when I did a similar presentation probably about 6 months ago, I think we were looking at 610 million professionals, and you can see, that's gone up hugely. That's now 722 million professionals using the platform globally. So again, you can see kind of, really big kind of rises in engagement there. If you want to find out more kind of stats, I put the links there so you can go through that. So why would you want to use it for a job search? Just a few words on that. So 90% of recruiters use LinkedIn. So if you're looking for a job, or you're just looking for your next step, it's really, really worth kind of engaging with. LinkedIn, if you go onto LinkedIn's blog, this stat is kind of repeated endlessly, is one person is hired every 3 minutes through LinkedIn. So kind of the volume is there in terms of the quantity. But I think probably more important is the kind of qualitative factors, which is if you get a job through LinkedIn, so if you're employed through a process that begins on LinkedIn, you have a 40% less chance of leaving during the first 6 months. So it means kind of like the due diligence and the recruitment process is, I guess, more thorough if it starts through LinkedIn, rather than just kind of interpersonal connection. I mean, it might also have something to do with the fact that people who are using LinkedIn for recruitment are bigger and maybe have more processes in place anyway. But I think that qualitative data sort of says a lot. Also, just a quick word on the audience. It's a professional audience on LinkedIn. I'm sure most of you will know that. It's slightly male dominated, slightly older. So, this isn't Snapchat. It's people who are sort of 25 to 44-year-old. That's the biggest group. People who are more likely to be affluent. Oh, hang on. My slides have disappeared.
If you just...
Oh, there they are. They've come back again. I was trying to get my slide navigator off. So they're slightly older. They're more affluent. So these are people who are earning probably 45 to 50,000 pounds a year, whereas less people who are on the site are lower earners, and it's more white collar professionals than blue collar trades. So inevitably, and I think probably this time it's sort of more risky than in a pre-COVID era. Having a personal brand on LinkedIn is important because it provides almost like a brand's reputational protectional bubble. And I talk to my corporate comm students about this. Is like, if something does happen, to a company or to you individually, having a brand persona or a reputation that is quite strong anyway protects you almost from the whatever's happened to you. So, for example, if you lose a job, um, and you're very active on LinkedIn and people know who you are, then I think you're far more likely to have kind of, an engaged following, and people are more likely to approach you, and you're probably going to be more likely to be approached by recruiters. Also that profile would already be up to date and live and very representative of who you are at the moment, and you'd be talking about your skills, etc. And I think it's the same with companies as well. If something, if they go through some kind of crisis, or they're hit, by something, then having a strong reputation will kind of see you through that, and it does help protect. But I'm sure you've all seen on LinkedIn, people going, oh, I've been made redundant through COVID, etc. There's an example post you can see here on the right. In response to that, LinkedIn have introduced a number of kind of functionalities, including the kind of open to work banner, which I'll talk through in a moment, because so many people were going through that experience at that particular time. Fortunately, I think we've seen that sort of tail off a little bit, and also the furlough scheme has been extended as well. So just to touch on personal branding then, because as I say, it's quite hard to kind of think, oh, treat yourself as a brand and have kind of an objective view on, kind of your positive traits, and how to market yourself. So just a quick word, first of all, on LinkedIn. And this is really kind of if you're a student, or you haven't got a huge kind of professional background. And if you're used to using social media channels from a personal sense, because it is different, having a business social media persona. Yes, you are yourself, and you do have to be genuine and authentic with that, but also you kind of have to treat it like an ongoing interview. What would you want an employer to see, and what would you not want them to see? Okay, so don't treat it kind of like Facebook or Snapchat or anything. Don't do any of the kind of ad-libbing, live streaming, pictures of your breakfast. No one wants to see any of that on LinkedIn. Okay, this is very much a professional platform. Your content needs to be thought through. People are in a mindset to receive in-depth technical information. Okay, so in general, emotional content performs badly on LinkedIn, and there was lots of stats in a pre-COVID life to show that. However, I think that has changed somewhat, because people are using LinkedIn now for those kind of water cooler moments, something that is a little bit more personal. So I think that's becoming more acceptable on LinkedIn now. But I still think it has to be related to something that is more professional. So it could be like a work anniversary, or something like that. You also might want to do some research. So with all of the kind of personal branding tips I'm going to give you, think about where you want to be. Okay, don't think about where you've been. Think about where you want to be and the job role that you want. Okay, so go and look at the people who've got the jobs that you potentially want. So what do they look like? What do their profiles look like? What kind of skills have they got? Okay, how are they presenting themselves? And you can sort of almost do that little bit of research, create a collage of people, and then think about how you might want to reflect some of that within your own business persona. Always remember as well that you, on LinkedIn, you're acting as not just for yourself, but you're acting as an ambassador for the business or organization that you're working for as well. So it's not just you. If you mess up, it potentially could have consequences for your career. So how do you consider your personal brand? Well, I would suggest, you start off like you would the same as any kind of marketing project, and kind of treat yourself almost like the product. Think about where you are now and where you want to be. and establish a route between the two. So this, would apply for whether you're currently out of work and you want to be in work, or you're a student and you want to get your first graduate role, or if you're employed and actually you want to take the next step up. Try and map that journey in terms of, okay, I'm here now, and I want to be, I'm here at point A, I want to be at point B. How do I get between the two? Always remember as well, because I think it's terribly easy to be disheartened when you look at social media, all the people who are brilliant, and, you look at their profiles and think, oh my God, how am I ever going to do that? Okay. You are unique and special. And it's quite difficult to always remember that when it's about yourself. We're all plagued with self-doubt. You are unique and special, and you've got experience and qualities and skills that only you possess. Okay. And it's about finding out what these are and using those to market yourself, and any kind of business or service. Okay. So how do you research your personal brand? Well, start off the same as any marketing projects. Try and do a situational analysis. What do people think about you professionally and personally? What are your standout qualities and talents? We've all got things that make us us. Some people are better, technically. Other people are fantastic people managers. Some people have got great creative skills. They're designers or they're writers, etc. Um, it's about kind of finding out what your particular qualities, so personal qualities, what your kind of professional skills are, and also kind of what qualifications and proof you've got of those. Think also about things like sector knowledge, which is really important. For example, if you're going into a specific sector, so things like pharma, anything scientific, manufacturing, engineering, those sorts of things, sector experience is also really, really important. So think about what you would like to promote to your potential employers or any kind of potential customers. And yes, it can be difficult to analyze yourself. So think about what data you've got available to you, because that's exactly what you would do with any kind of product or service or any kind of marketing project. You would look at what kind of research and data is available. So perhaps it's a school or a university report, or perhaps it's your latest appraisal at work or some feedback that you've received. Kind of go through that and sort of, can you pick out any kind of recurring themes or kind of, things that you might be able to use as key phrases for search. I also, when I was thinking about this last week, I also did a little survey of friends and colleagues. Okay. And I thought, well, actually, if you're brave, you could do a little survey about what people think of you and what are your top traits, etc. And you can do that through social media. You might have to edit it a bit and you might get some randoms, but that might be something that you could do. So I did just a little survey on Google Forms, which was some multiple choice questions and some open questions. And I put the frequently used terms from my latest appraisal as my multiple choice question options. So I had questions on my personal qualities, top professional skills, what I was known for and what I was underrated for, because I think sometimes other people are best at identifying for you your sort of top qualities. So I think that kind of external feedback can be really useful. I asked for anything I could improve, because every day's a learning day, and I left a free space for anything else, so people could add their own thoughts. The data I got back was really useful. I only sent this to, I think it was like 15 people or something like that, but it was people I'd worked with in the past 12 months, who'd worked with me on specific projects, etc. And actually, it was really useful, and some of the feedback was quite surprising. So I think it's kind of always worth doing. I found out that I was best known as a communicator, which isn't really a surprise, but also I was equally perceived as approachable, which I probably should have worked out, seeing as kind of the cues I have at university in terms of people approaching me. I also got key qualities back that were surprising and kind of at different ends of the scale. I got things like words like fabulous and glamorous, which were surprising, and then very organised and efficient at the other end. Um, so Anne's nodding at that. It was
Very efficient.
it was you know, it was really, really interesting to kind of get that feedback. And what I did with that then was, you know, kind of found recurring themes, things that I could use as keywords for my profile. So things that could be used as a search term. And also that I could weave into my profile. I also asked people if they could comment on my current profile, and I got lots of compliments about my LinkedIn picture, which apparently was perceived as very happy. So that was good to know about that as well. So once you've kind of done your little bit of research, you can start to think about how you might want to put things together. So think about your personal style. You know, are you formal or informal? Are you kind of quirky, creative? You know, how do you want to be presented, and how do you want to present yourself? Also, and this is quite important, is think about your sector. So if you're going into corporate law, you need to be suited and booted, and you need to be, you know, incredibly corporate. You know, if you're going to be a graphic designer, then perhaps you need to be, you know, more quirky and, you know, creative and innovative, etc. Think about how people in your sector are presented. And I did a little bit of research. I literally went onto my own, you know, connections, and these are all people who I know. So some of these are agency owners. So this is Jim, who Jim in the top left-hand corner, who owns Bulb Studios in Leicester. So that, you know, that's quite a kind of, you know, kind of cheerful but very good sort of corporate look. Just the next picture to the right, the very attractive lady is Nick Govier, and she runs a very swanky PR agency in London, hence the kind of sort of fashion model, you know, kind of picture that she's got there. The very dapper gentleman in the blue suit, I think is Simon, and he, you know, you wouldn't normally do a full body shot for LinkedIn, but he actually runs a bespoke suit company. So obviously he's using his picture to promote his wares, which is completely understandable. And actually that's a very nice shot. The lady on the end is Kate, and she is a photographer and graphic designer. So you can see she's used some of her skills to produce something that's very contemporary in feel and has lots of kind of creativity woven into it. The lady on the bottom left is Xanadu, and she's one of my students. And I picked that out because I thought that was a very strong, she's used the colours really well with kind of like a dark background and a nice light but very professional suit there. So great for any of the kind of graduate interviews she'll be going for. The next lady along with the dark background again is Sam, who used to work at Anicca in our social team, and she loved a bit of black, I think it's fair to say, in her wardrobe, and her pictures kind of reflect, you know, that element of her kind of personal style. The gentleman along with the lovely moustaches is TJ Moore, and he's one of my fellow lecturers at De Montfort University, and he's incredibly known for being super well groomed and always wears a waistcoat and is quite kind of hipster, but very, very smart. And finally, the chap on the end is Rob, and he runs a brand purpose agency in London. So his style is more because I guess he works with a lot of kind of issues and, you know, in the kind of diversity and inclusion space. So his is more, I guess, informal and less posh, less corporate, I guess. So kind of have a look around, see what you fancy, you know how to present yourself, and think about using all the data that you found to present the best side of you. Okay, so now I'm going to quickly dash through some of the functionality side, because I've still got quite a few slides to get through, and as always, time is tight. So Do make sure that your profile is looking professional. So make sure you've got all your bits filled in. So particularly your kind of headline and job title at the top, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And also you've got your about section filled in. So the about section, you can use that as a lovely summary of who you are, what you have done, and perhaps what you want to do. And that's a great place to use some of those keywords you would have found in your research. A tip when you're writing your headlines, if you are open to opportunities and you have got the the little frame, that's fine. You're allowed to say that you're open to opportunities in the headline, but please don't take out your current profession, okay? Because otherwise you won't get picked up in the searches by recruiters. So it will actually reduce your chance of of getting a job and being, within recruiters' searches. Okay. So you can put it in, but don't remove, your job title, sector, etc. from that. Always use the keywords for the position you want, not what you've just left or you've got experience in. Okay, so it's about that journey. And we're talking about positioning yourself, where you are now and where you want to be. You need to be using those search terms for where you want to be, because then you'll start to get the job offers for the jobs that you want rather than the stuff you might have just left. Quick word as well about sales. If you are a salesperson, you might want to choose a slightly softer job title, maybe like account manager or business development or something, because people do get slightly turned off by hard sales. If you work for an organisation, you might want to, keep your profile on brand. So having the background, and a lot of companies produce a standard one that you can upload, or if they don't, you might want to steal something like, I think I stole that one off the De Montfort University website, because the shape of it is quite like a website banner, so it won't distort it very much. So have a nice background that is on brand. Also, if you studied somewhere or if you're working somewhere, make sure that you're clicking through to the organisation from your profile, and that the logos are pulling through as indicated on the slide there. Okay. If you want to edit it, very simple. You just click on the little pen icons, which are normally in the right hand corner. If you are starting from scratch in terms of whether you're open to opportunities, you'll find that now on the left in a drop down box which says open to. If you've already got that activated, it will appear as kind of a banner box across the screen. A bit more like on this one where you can set open to job opportunities. Okay. LinkedIn does lots of hints and tips in terms of your profile and updating it. So please, go on all the different profile sections, and it will tell you the bits that you need to improve. It's very intuitive, and you can work your way through it very easily. If you're going to take one thing away from today, it's get a decent picture, because this isn't like Facebook or Instagram, where you've got tons of pictures that people can kind of go through. There's like one picture which kind of the major picture which sums up, kind of who you are. So make sure it's a good one. Make sure it says what you want it to say about yourself. These are the basics, appropriate image, so no cleavage, or, make sure that you haven't got a pint in your hand, or, those sorts of common sense things. I still see a lot of people who have got, wedding pictures or holiday pictures, not really appropriate. You're looking for something that is professional. And nearly always a headshot rather than full body, although there are exceptions like that chap Simon, which I showed you earlier. If you are open to work, you can add the open to work photo frame, which you can find in the open to work section, and you can that will frame it for you. When we first when that first came about in the first lockdown, people were saying, does it make you look desperate? Well, apparently, according to LinkedIn, it does actually work. You're 40% more likely to be emailed by a recruiter if you have the frame up there. However much of that is kind of spam or wasted attention is very, very difficult to tell. But apparently, it does get you more attention. If you haven't got a lot of money, lots of freelance photographers are giving away free headshots to people made redundant by COVID. So that's always worth a bit of a search. If you're looking at LinkedIn through the mobile app, okay, and it is quite important, I think, to remember that, yes, there's a mobile app for LinkedIn, but a lot of people still do things on desktop. So just make sure that kind of you're looking at both when you're doing your profile. One of the things that's just on the app is the name pronunciation. So if you've got a name which is perhaps non-native or people struggle with, you can actually record pronunciation, and it saves you repeating yourself all the time if you've got a name that's more difficult. Hints and tips then. So this is what I was talking about earlier in terms of using your key terms. So for things like your job title and your role summary. So these are the bits that are really important for when people are conducting searches on LinkedIn. So make sure your copy is clear and concise. Use your industry key phrases. So think about what people will be searching for within your particular industry. Think about what you specialize in, products, skills, areas, they're kind of famous brands that you've worked for that you could include. I did quite a bit of work for John Lewis many years ago, and that used to come up as a search term in my profile all the time. So do include that. Make sure you've linked your previous roles to the appropriate company page, as then it will pull through the correct logo on the left-hand side. And perhaps you want to tell some stories, make things a little bit more interesting than just a bullet point list. And also, I keep talking about this, but focus on where you want to go, not where you have been. What are people searching for? Well, these are the top trending skills. This is data that LinkedIn doesn't really release. So I managed to get it off LinkedIn last year. So this is the most up-to-date data I can get. So this is UK trending skills as of spring last year. So it's nearly a year old now, but it does give you an idea of the sort of skills that people are looking for. So things like account management. There's also programs like JavaScript. But there's also things like creative writing, requirements gathering, things that you wouldn't normally think are particular sort of skills. The fastest growing and the top skills as well, you can see here. So a lot of kind of, what I'd call sort of softer skills here, things like presentation skills, things that you can very easily demonstrate on a LinkedIn profile, perhaps, recording a presentation of your own. There's, again, kind of programs. So you've got Python, which is a programming language, but you've also got things like Photoshop as well. If you're a student and you've got free access to LinkedIn Learning, these are the sorts of things that are available on LinkedIn Learning in terms of kind of little short training courses. So it would be really worth your while going on that. If you are looking for a job, you might want to adjust your recruitment settings. As I said, this is found on that left-hand side if you haven't activated it already. If you have, then it appears as kind of a bar across. You can go in there and you can activate whether you're open to a new position, what sort of positions that you're looking for, etc. And you can also set it so recruiters can see it, but your employer can't as well. So that's worth bearing in mind too. Just be aware if your employer has a recruitment setting, though, they might be able to see it in their recruitment setting. So just kind of be a little bit careful of that one. There's also a jobs tab at the top where you can go through and you can manage your job searches. So jobs that you want to apply for, jobs that you have applied for, etc. And also it will search jobs for you. So you can go in there and have a look at that page. Regardless of whether you're looking for a job or whether you're promoting yourself or your company, it's quite important to see who's looked at you. So you can go to your profile just below your picture, and there's a little thing that says who has looked at me. And you can go into your profile views and it will give you a list of who has looked at you. It's really good for making connections, so you can connect with people, but also you can see the type of people who are looking at you, where they are from, the organisations they're from, and also their particular roles as well. So you can see why, potentially, you can make a guess as to why they're looking at you. In terms of content then, so there is a featured section which it has now been added, and you can put things like you might want to put like a little introductory video there that would demonstrate your presentation skills. You could put things like PowerPoints via SlideShare, any kind of important articles, or maybe like a case study of work that you've done. You can then add in your awards, your nominations for awards, professional qualifications, or membership of professional body as well. If you are doing LinkedIn Learning, that will add little kind of badges of courses that you've completed through LinkedIn Learning, and all that increases your kind of discoverability. And this is a great way to kind of personalize your profile and make it stand out. Finally, perhaps when you're asking people to fill in the survey, ask them to if they will be prepared to give a testimonial, because having people say nice things can make all the difference. Okay. So a few quick words about thought leadership. I just, because I know Anne will want to go in a moment. So just be aware that people use LinkedIn for a lot of research purposes. Obviously, it's for business purposes, and they want technical and in-depth information. Okay, so they're looking for potentially for thought leadership information. So it's make sure that when you're putting content out there, that it would be things that people would be looking for on and are interested in. Couple of things to bear in mind in terms of what people are talking about and kind of how that's changed with COVID-19. So, LinkedIn's seeing this huge increase in content creation, and naturally some sectors have come to the top. So things like business continuity, cloud services, video streaming, cybersecurity, remote working, virtual reality, and software. So you might want to use some of those in your content. I talked about the personalization of content earlier, and I think LinkedIn has got more personal, and you can see people sharing more kind of emotional content and things, particularly mental health. I'm seeing a little bit more of, but also things perhaps related to health and COVID. And also, I guess, any personal anniversaries that people are having, because people are sort of missing that kind of interaction in the workplace, those sorts of water cooler moments. I think an addition is that LinkedIn are bringing in is stories. Now, obviously, stories are used on Facebook and Instagram already. It's been trialled in the US and Canada since September, I believe. And I guess we just have to wait to see whether that's successful, to see whether LinkedIn stories will be brought in the UK and Europe. But that is something that I imagine will be on the horizon fairly quickly. So just have a bit of a think before you create post on LinkedIn. It is a closed network, but it's a professional network, and you are acting as an ambassador. Okay, so if in doubt, don't post it. Or if in doubt, check it with somebody else before you post it. You don't want to end up, kind of the Donald Trump-esque kind of controversial poster. It does get you attention, but possibly the wrong sort of attention. Keep it professional and avoid things like politics, religion, and personal beliefs. There's lots of reasons why you should post, and thinking about content is one of the biggest reasons that people go, oh, I'm not on LinkedIn. Oh, I just can't think of what to put. Loads of things. And it's, useful to have a think about it in advance, make lists, and perhaps you want to use maybe like one of the free tools like Hootsuite, to sort of plan content in advance so you don't have to think of things, like twice a week. You don't have to post natively or live. These are some examples of things that you could post about. So maybe like a client win, or some kind of great contract that you've got. If you're a freelancer, if you've got a new piece of work, something like that. Perhaps is there some external news, maybe like legislation changes, technical developments in your sector? What about the people that you work with? So, is there something you might want to comment on for a colleague? So have they got a great win, or have they been at the company for a long time, or have they got promoted? There's lots of ways to sort of give kudos, and I'll go through those that functionality in a moment to team members. Seasonal content, so things that are relevant for a particular time of year, so Christmas or Valentine's Day or Easter, etc. And you might want to think about big milestones as well, so anniversaries, jobs or marriages, birthdays, new qualifications or training. I've just put a few restrictions here on writing LinkedIn posts. I'm not going to go through this, but I guess the most important one is that it's 220 characters before the see more appears. So make sure if you want to get a point across that you do it very early on in your post. Tagging, do tag companies and individuals, so you can type at and then the first letter, and it will normally give you a drop down of people that you can tag, so you can do that for a business name or a personal name. It's a great way of kind of increasing the reach of a post. If you're doing it personally, though, try not to spam it. Don't do it indiscriminately or sort of randomly, as it can be sort of interpreted as a bit rude and a bit spammy. But do add links to more information, blogs, websites, etc., to give more information. Hashtags, lots of people get confused by hashtags, and I hate, have to tell my students this over and over again. Okay, so don't make up your own hashtags. Hashtags are there for a reason, which is to increase the size of the audience and the reach for a particular subject area. So tag things like recruiter or LinkedIn or marketer, those sorts of things. It's dead easy on LinkedIn because you can do the hashtag and then you can start typing, and then it will give you a drop down of subjects that you can then click on and you can put as a hashtag. Okay, don't make them up because it's pointless, and also don't make them super duper long. Okay, you can also use hashtags to search on relevant content for yourself as well. There are some nice posting functions. These have been around for a little bit now, but they keep adding new ones. I think the latest one is the sort of offer help one, but you can give kudos, you can celebrate an occasion, and you can find these when you go to create a post, and they give you drop downs. You can click onto them, they'll give you another drop down, and then you can sort of select the content. And they're a nice kind of quick, easy way of varying your content. So I've just put here a checklist for writing LinkedIn posts. And again, I won't go through this, but it's really nice for you to keep as kind of a reference and you can go back through it. So in terms of, LinkedIn, it's not about sort of spamming, your connections with everything that you think about. It's about quality rather than quantity. So, less is more, fewer posts, more in depth. Okay. Keep the copy short. Make sure you're hashtagging, but you're not hashtagging like about 15 hashtags in there, okay, because that will sort of negatively affect the post. Is there a link people can go and get more information? Have you used an image or a video which will attract people to the post? And have you checked it, because the amount you see with spelling errors, etc., is amazing. You can also engage with posts, so it's a really good way of increasing engagement with your own posts, is to then interact with other people, and hopefully they will return the favour. There's some lovely reactions now, which includes the nice support emoji, which you can see kind of in the middle. Yes, you can use the reactions, and you can also share or comment. Quick word on increasing your network then. I won't go into this too much. There's great kind of functionality in terms of, adding people and also kind of searching for people as well. So you can search for relevant people, you can send an invitation to connect, and you can personalize an invitation. If you are doing that, please don't follow up with an instant sales pitch or job request, because I'm sure from kind of personal experience, if you sort of get bombarded with these, kind of cold, in mails, and they can be very impersonal and quite poorly done. In-mails can be used for really great purposes in terms of promoting like an event or something that's relevant, but most people don't use them properly. The best way to engage with anyone is to see what a person is writing about, and can you comment in a constructive way, engage with conversation, make friends with them, and then start to bring up your other agenda. LinkedIn gives you loads of places where you can get suggestions. You can go by similar roles, organisation, location, and alumni as well. And you can find all this in the connections tab. You can also look at teammates here, which will help prioritise your news feed as well. So you can flag up who is actually a teammate of yours. That does help prioritise their news in your feed. You can also add connections from existing email contacts. So you can use, if you've got all your information on Gmail, for example, or on Outlook, you can import that list into LinkedIn. Don't go mad and start spamming everybody with loads of invitations, because you do get banned if you do it all the time and regularly and daily. They will stop you doing it. They do it less, by the way, if you do it, I think, on your phone rather than on your desktop. Check out people who are relevant. Start with your inner circle, so your clients and your colleagues, and people who and then you can start to reach out more into the ether and the sector. If you're getting invitations, then make sure you check them out. So you get some dodgy ones from kind of India in Arabic or Chinese. There's quite a few sort of fake profiles going around. So if you get an invitation you're not sure about, go into it and see how many kind of connections and what sort of history they've got on their profile to see whether they're real people or whether they're just sort of bots. Add a couple of people a day and slowly build your connections up. And do add people with large followings, because people talk about influencers on kind of Instagram and other platforms, but, there are thought leaders, and opinion leaders on LinkedIn. So people like recruiters who've got lots of connections, it's really great for widening your own profile and increasing your own audience. Okay. And just, I always get asked this question, so just quickly, finally, which is, do you want people to see whether you've searched for them or not? Okay. Um, and yes, you can do this if you go into your settings and then you go into the privacy option, and it will say profile viewing options, and you can click on whether you want people to see whether you've searched for them or not, or you can make your search private. So you can do it as in a completely private mode, or you can have you're kind of someone in this sector, someone in this role has searched for you as well. Okay, so that's all from me. So I'm going to hand over to Anne now, and she's going to quickly run through the recruitment news that she has.
Thanks, guys. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Caroline?
I can hear you, yes.
Excellent. Okay, so that's really helpful. It was interesting to see the survey results. I could have predicted some of those. I know we're quite near the end, so hopefully you can stay onto the webinar. There's two things that I wanted to talk about. It's from an employer's perspective, if you want to take advantage of the Kickstart scheme, and then if you're looking for a new place, a new job, if you're under 24, then I've got 5 jobs to announce. So let me just explain what the Kickstarter scheme is. I have got a video, which I won't really have time to go through now, but basically it's, please do click on the video afterwards, and you will be able to sort of hear the advertising from the government. But it's government funding for employers to create 6-month job placements for young people. I think it might actually be 16 to 24-year-olds who are at risk of long-term unemployment, and it's to get them back into the job market. So the scheme was advertised sort of September, October time by the government. Applications started in November, but people are only just starting to recruit for it now. And if you haven't already applied, you can still apply. So I'll explain what that process is in a minute. So first of all, for the actual person that works for you, they can be 16 to 24 on universal credit and at risk of long-term employment. The placement is at least 25 hours per week, and they have to pay the national minimum wage, and it's for 6 months. Now, just as an asterisk there, because in our case, we're actually topping that up to full-time, and we're also not paying the minimum wage, we're paying the living wage. I think the minimum wage for 21 to 24-year-old is about £8 an hour. So the living wage is about £10, just over £10 an hour. So you can see there's quite a big difference with the minimum and the living wage. You need to employ people that don't actually have to have a lot of training prior to starting the job. So you are expected to provide on-the-job training. So you can't just say, oh, you've got to work for 3 years in an agency. You can't do that. You can't even say that they've got to be a graduate, although we obviously would like to encourage people that are graduates to apply. And the whole point of it really is that they're going to get additional training. That experience will put them great on their CV, and that's going to increase their chances of employability going forward. So what happens is if you're an employer, you'll get 100% of the cost at 25 hours per week, but only at the minimum wage. So a lot of employers, what they're doing, they're being a bit cheeky. So instead of offering one person full-time, 37.5 hours, they're offering 2 people at 25 hours. So effectively all that is paid for by the government. We sort of think that's a little bit short-sighted. We'd rather employ people in the way that they would be employed in the long term. In addition, they're going to get their national insurance contributions and a £1,500 placement setup cost, which is to support all the training and everything else. Now, if you're an employer, because I know I did notice in the poll there's lots of employers here. If you're a Tesco's or a big organisation and you've got more than 30 vacancies, you can apply directly. But most people aren't; they're much smaller. So, because of the admin associated with the scheme, you have to apply through an intermediary organisation. And that's going to be something like the Chamber of Commerce, the Federation of Small Businesses, local authorities, etc. So we've gone through the East Midlands Chamber. We are a patron of the Chamber, and I've provided the link. So if you want to apply and you've still got vacancies, you can go through the Chamber, and there's a form on there. And it's a two-step process. It's really easy. You put in your original intention to apply, and then once it's been approved, then you upload your job descriptions, and actually they can then start to advertise those, which is the stage that we're at now. So the Chamber's role is to find the placements and liaise with the local employers. They submit the funding application to the government, and then they support the recruitment process with the job description, the advert and interview, etc. And then they basically monitor all that. They do provide a lot of extra training and support, and then they pay the grant over to us. So they're effectively acting as a broker. Now, they are also encouraging employers to advertise their own schemes. So if you've seen in LinkedIn and also the blog on our website, we've got these 5 vacancies. But the actual application process will involve going through the formal channels as well as us sort of getting your application. So we've got 5 vacancies on offer. And as I said, they're full-time and they're for the following roles. So there's a content marketing assistant. So if you're interested in SEO, PR, organic social media, if you're basically good at writing, this will be perfect for you. We've got a paid media and digital advertising. So this is more sort of Google ads, LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads, analytics. So you definitely need to have a bit more of numerical skills for that one. We've also got a position for creative and design assistant. So this is if you're into graphic design, photography, videography. You will need to be good at being creative. You know, if you've got to use Photoshop and Canva, you can't just start from scratch and do nothing. We need some skills there in order to be able to employ you. You've got to show some basically some talent. We then got a client service and sales assistant role. This is more of an admin, but you will get a chance to learn some basic customer service skills, get involved in some selling, but it's not a telesales role. We're not going to expect you to just get on the phone. And then we've got an office and admin assistant to help with the running of the agency, which includes things like office admin, a bit of finance, event organisation, maybe a bit of marketing. So if you are interested in any of those roles, you can click onto our blog on the Anicca site and you'll actually see them. I don't know whether Caroline could actually put the blog. If you go onto the blog, Caroline, it's the first one there, and add a link. Okay. So if you are interested, I will put an offer up in a minute. They're 37.5 hours. We're expecting them to start somewhere between the 1st of March and 1st of April. You will be based in our office on Frog Island, which is the old converted pub as you drive on the way in. We're just up the road from the High Cross. We do offer flexi working and remote working. We do have core hours, but based on the current restrictions and everything, we would expect you to be in the office 1 day a week, but you could be in the office up to 5 days a week, depending on the office closing and opening due to COVID. You've got to be under 24, but we're really keen to speak to local grads. But if you started university and you gave up, or you did A levels, we just like to see people that are passionate about internet and working in a digital agency. We will be paying the living wage. So if you're aged 21 to 24, this is equivalent to an £18,000 salary. And we have very transparent and rapid promotion within the agency as you progress through the different stages of the pay scale. So, you will, if you're successful and you do well, it will lead to a permanent position, but also we've got a really dynamic career path for people that come in. We will be providing training, including our 12-day digital marketing course, which starts again in March. We may delay the start of that if COVID lockdown still happens. And this can lead to DMI and CIM qualification. If anybody else is interested in sending people onto that course, because they're also doing Kickstarts, any employers, if you contact myself or Jess, who's the other host for the webinars, we can do a deal with you, particularly if you've got a number of trainees. There's additional support through the Chamber, And as I said before, we are hoping that they will lead to passing and becoming a full-time job. So I'm going to quickly bring the offer up, which will come up in front of you now. If you want to click on there, if you're interested in the placements, that will click through to the job and the job descriptions for all of those. If you are you want to just go directly to us, if you want to email Jess at anicca.co.uk, she's actually processing the applications, and if anybody wants to speak to me about anything to do with the process, I can help any other employers as well. You will need to apply formally once we've screened you, so that you will need to go through the job centre once you get to that stage. That's all for me on the Kickstarter scheme. I just also wanted to do a couple of ads for the next few weeks. So next week we've got Ed. He's going to be talking about the new Google Analytics 4. It's a brand new analytics program. He's going to be showing you how to set it up. He's going to compare it with the current functionality. It's got lots of advantages from a privacy and AI point of view. And a lot more data control. So that's going to be really interesting. It's a little bit more technical than today, but we will start off nice and gently and ease you through it. And then finally, if you're not already aware, Leicester Digital Live is on the 16th of February. There's actually 4 streams. I just bring you up an offer with a link to one of the streams, but we are actually advertising that now. And the way that that's formatting is there's going to be one stream in the morning and an afternoon for all the Anicca team producing sort of introduction sessions, and then the normal Leicester Digital Live stream, which is all our guest speakers from a whole range of organisations and suppliers, including people like SEMrush, SimilarWeb, Yoast, eBay, Optimizer, Ringside Analytics, and you can see it's a really mix of suppliers. There's some lovely stuff on the psychology of marketing. There's our coach who's going to talk to you about time management and how you can help yourself with that. And then there's Lucas, who spoke previously at Leicester Digital Exchange, one of our live events. He's going to talk about indexing for SEO and Google. So it's a real mix of subjects there. And you know what we do with our Leicester Digital Live, which last year was 18 months ago, it was a Haymarket. So please sign up. If you sign up to one, we'll send you the invitation to the other streams. You can sign up to all 4 of them. They are already available on the Big Mark site. And you can also, it's free. I haven't mentioned that, but you can donate to our Charity Links charity as well. And we're hoping to get 500, at least 500 people attending this time. And it will be recorded. So if you miss one section in one stream, you can always come back and see it. So I think that's all for today. Hopefully that's been really helpful. We will send you the webinar around the recording later on. I know we've gone past 10 o'clock, and I know a lot of people have got other businesses and calls to do, Zoom calls to do. But if you are, if you've got any questions, we can hang around for a little while. I think, Amanda's asked a question: how do I market myself in 2 completely different working environment and fields, one employed and one self-employed? You can create 2 profiles for each and create them as 2 different employers. You can do that. You can also see that quite a lot of people have got concurrent employment. Caroline, for example, is still a consultant for Anicca, and she's got her current employment at DMU. So she's got both of hers on her LinkedIn profile. Did you want to add anything else, Caroline? Also, for anybody who haven't noticed, up in the top right in the handouts, you can also download the slides from today as well.
Yeah. So I did. I put the link to the blog in the sticky, so that's there. Um, just to say to Amanda, yeah. I mean, I find it's just to add on to that. You can have more than one on the same profile, and I think now people increasingly have side hustles, so I don't think it's necessarily a problem. And also, particularly if they're related in any kind of way. If they're completely different, you might want to advertise them on the same profile, but then perhaps maybe have a blog or a website or something, and you can send people off for more information, you know, on that particular skill set. So, for example, if you do, I don't know, like make soap or candles or something, and then you're a lawyer in your day job. Yeah, if it's completely different, you might want to send them off. But otherwise, I think people are increasingly used to having more than one role.
Yeah, I agree. Agree. And also if you employ like a coach or a non-exec director or something like that, they'll have one profile for every company that they work with. So that's quite common. Excellent. Well, thanks very much, everybody. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Sorry, I had sound issues. It turned out that it was my my Ann profile. So when I logged in under a new email address, it worked fine. And I'll solve that by next Friday. And have a great weekend. Speak to you soon. Thanks, Caroline, again for your presentation. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.